is topsoil. To mankind, topsoil means food and life. It exists only upon a small favored fraction of the Earth's surface, and it averages a depth of only 6 inches. Your life depends upon these 6 vital inches. It takes nature from 10 to 30 human generations to produce a single inch of topsoil. A single inch since the days of Columbus. Topsoil is not just a collection of minerals and chemicals. It is alive. It can be injured, and it can die. This desert in New Mexico was once good grazing land, but overgrazing destroyed the protecting grass, allowing wind and rain to scatter the soil and destroy it forever. Roughly 1/4 of the land in the United States is suitable for cropland. We have ruined about 1/10 of our original heritage and damaged more than 1/2 of what remains, some of it seriously. We are losing each year by bad management and the resulting erosion the equivalent of nearly 500,000 acres, which our rivers carry down to the sea. What is this heritage we are losing, and why is it so important? Where did it come from? Here are the materials nature uses to build topsoil: air, sunlight, and rock, with water as its lifeblood. However, nature first organizes these elements into a form that life can use. Many agencies and forces bring about these changes, and one of these is temperature. At the foot of this cliff, this great mass of rock was broken apart by expansion and contraction due to changes in temperature. Here, the same process has been carried a step further. Yet another process is the grinding of the rock. Here, the clear green ice of a glacier, with its enormous weight, moves down the mountainside. A glacier acts like a giant file upon the rock. Already the ice shows streaks from the particles of rock torn from the mountain. At the foot of the glacier, we find the ice covered with a blanket of rock ground from the mountain's face. With the passing of time, the glacier melts, and then rock particles are released as we see here. The broken rock is dropping from the face of the glacier, splashing into the water of a glacial lake. The rock particles are carried downhill by a stream formed by the melting ice. Water continues the grinding process, and by the turbulent action of the current, the particles of rock are reduced to ever finer size. Here the glacial stream carries ground up rock into a clear brook to be deposited later in the valley as sand or gravel. Water plays another role. It dissolves minerals from the rock, leaving the less soluble parts to stand out. The dissolved minerals become available for plant food. Now an entirely new set of forces goes to work. Here nature's pioneers, the tiny lichens, can gain a foothold even on the face of a barren rock. Acid from the lichen roots dissolves minerals from the rock. These lichens absorb moisture from the air. They grow, reproduce, and die. Their remains, often mixing with dust and sand, produce a seed bed in which higher forms of plants can grow. These in turn die and contribute their substance to the seed bed, until on a bare rocky ledge we find organic matter deep enough to support a small tree. simple plants have enacted before our eyes a most astounding drama. They have taken dead inorganic rock and air into their own living bodies. And here is the miracle of life. As this bean rises from its seed bed, the cells in its stem respond to the light, turning the leaves toward the sun. And now the heart of the miracle. The chlorophyll, the miraculous green coloring matter in the leaves, captures energy from the sun's rays. The plant takes elements from the air and from the soil and builds them with the help of this energy into its own living body. The leaves follow the sun through the day, presenting their broad sides to its rays until it sinks in the west. Then the stems relax and the leaves droop. Below the surface, the roots reach into the soil and from it absorb the dissolved materials which are carried up and eventually built into the plant. "95% of the plant is made of elements originally contained in the air. Some of these come to the plant by way of the soil, in the form of water and nitrogen compounds. The other 5% originates in the soil itself, and into this body of inert elements, the plant has locked the sun's energy, the key and spark of life. When the plant dies, it lays on the earth's surface this store of energy and the elements taken from the soil. Now moles, bacteria, and insects, millions of them to the acre, break up the plant, mixing it into the earth. And in this process of decay, the dead plant becomes available as food for other plants. This decaying substance also forms a spongy humus. It can absorb water. Without this humus, the rain that sinks into the raw soil keeps right on sinking, washing the valuable minerals out of the soil in a process called leaching. But with this humus, the soil acquires not only a new plant food, but, for the first time, adequate power to absorb and store water with its life-giving minerals. Underground, the worms do their part by eating the rock particles, digesting them, and casting them up on the surface. Several tons to the acre each year, thus enriching the surface and replacing the minerals used up by the plants. Step by step, the character of the soil has changed. The dark topsoil has taken shape. If we plant seeds in two boxes, one of topsoil, the other of subsoil, here is what we find. Nearly double the growth in topsoil, a partial measure of the difference between the fertile soil our country started with and the man-made desert we are fast building for ourselves. And so, from an environment in which pioneer lichens were barely able to exist, life builds up a richer environment where plants can find the energy to elaborate higher forms, to grow rich and luxuriant, each new form helping to prepare the way for the next. This, then, is nature's gift to us, living topsoil, a link in the chain of life, which began with nature's raw materials, the sun's energy, the chlorophyll in the plants, living topsoil, that thin, precious blanket averaging only 6 inches deep, which we must conserve, for nature will not give those inches a second time, those vital inches that mean the difference between death and life for man.